Hi, peeps, and welcome back to Passionate People and Preposterous Peeves. I am your host, and before I forget to, I'd like to just take a moment and say thanks for being here and giving this pod a listen. It means a lot to me that you chose to use your precious time and give me and my guest your ears. Now, if after all this loveliness, you still have the wherewithal, it'd be really cool if you shared this with someone who you think would like it, or just subscribe yourself if you already haven't, that would mean a lot. Or if you really want to tell me what parts of the show you were passionate about, peeved you off, or just say hi, you can always reach me via Twitter at @likeikes and on email passionandpeevespodcast@gmail.com. So, sorry for the potential dulcet tones. I am literally just waking up on the Monday that you guys are potentially going to be hearing this, the 27th of May, aka Memorial Day. Woo! Memorial Day has always been a very odd holiday to me. Because on one hand, I appreciate all the service persons who sadly had to pay such a price to, make this country exist in certain ways. Other people may disagree that blah, 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 blah. Anyway, either way, to the service people, I salute you. Thank you for keeping me and arguably the world safe. On the other hand, yay, I get to sleep in. I'm conflicted. Either which way, it is such a day, and as I don't have to work, I got to sleep in, which was fantastic, because I kind of needed to. Been very active in the dating scene here in LA. I have a dating, my dating efforts have a definitive info rate of 80%. So that's what I'm calling it. Which means that on 80% of dates I've had, it has yielded conclusive data. And since these are first dates, in case you can't figure it out, that conclusive data is no. I've only had one second date, and that one ended in a eventual no. Sadly not for me, but overall, I think for the best. I've experienced many great things, whether they be food or persons, and I regret none of this at all, and kind of shocked a friend in saying that, yeah, I kind of enjoy doing this, it's kind of fun. And he's like, oh, what's wrong with you? I don't know, maybe this is kind of beginner's bias and that I'm just enjoying the hunt for the moment, and he's coming at it from a old salt perspective, but definitely doesn't bother me like lots of people have mentioned online. Obviously it would be awesome to find the one and retire from the game undefeated, but as that has yet to happen, I'm enjoying the hunt. It's fun. Get to meet new people, usually go to food places I may or may not go to, learn about them. It's a lot of intro episodes, which, if any of you have followed this show for a while, know I love the first episode of a TV show. I love the first movie in a series. It is they are usually my favorite. I love introductions. I love getting to know things about people, and that's what you get to do on first dates. So it's not that bad. Something that is kind of bad. You ever do something that you realize you run across something, you're like, I had at no point thought about doing that, but totally needed to do that. And that was me this weekend with laundry. I just this morning woke up, looked at my waste bin, I was like, or my laundry bin, I was like, crap. And I was like, I was supposed to do that yesterday, and just at no point did it ever enter my noggin. I had loads of time. Whoops. Yeah, I'll figure that out at some point, I suppose. Maybe I'll find time today. Any which way, something on the horizon that it's likely true for many of you out there listening, either in occupation or in, time spent, is school is almost over. In fact, for some of you, it very well may be already. But for me, I've got 4 days this week because Memorial Day. Thank you for your service. Woohoo. And basically 4 days the following week, but only 1 day with students. The rest is going to be just clerical work, moving boxes, doing biz. And it's going to be lovely. Can't wait for it to be over. Very excited for my summer. Starting it off abruptly by the day we finish driving to Vegas. It's a magic tournament and fun to be had there. But, yeah. It's been lovely. Something else that was lovely as well was my interview with our guest today. The lovely Jeremy Garcia. Jeremy I have known for a while from playing Magic, and just through conversation I've always been interested in kind of picking his brain, and I do not regret that for a minute. and I hope you guys don't regret listening to this episode ever. Take it away, past me.
All right, folks. Today on the pod, we have a man who's been run over by a truck not once, but twice, and somehow still never broken a bone, got into the repo business before he could vote, and used to model for Marc Jacobs. It's the one, the only, Jeremy Garcia!
Oh, hey. What's up?
It's a me.
Hey.
So before we get into things, used to model for Marc Jacobs. What was that like?
So it was kind of a weird fall into. Before I worked at Marc Jacobs, I just kind of did rando jobs and kind of fell into working there after a 3-month stint at Urban Outfitters after not having random jobs.
Yeah.
And then at one point, the owner is like, "Oh, you should model for us." And I was like, "What?" And me coming from like a hardcore background, not knowing like anything, like when I started working there, I didn't know anything about anything when it came to clothing. I was just like this little punk kid. And they're like, "Oh, we love you. You should do this shoot with us." And I was like, "All right." So I ended up doing like an underwear shoot at the time. And it was like me and like 3 other coworkers at one point in like Speedos. And they're like, "Oh, we're gonna do a top shot." And I was like, "What the fuck is a top shot?" I was like, "I haven't been working here that long, but I'm like, I don't know. So they have us
what is a top shot for the record?
So it's just like a straight down shot. So we're shooting at Siren Studios before Siren Studios became like even crazier, larger than it already is. It was literally the camera guy on a crane shooting straight down. And I'm like, all right. So we ended up spelling out the letters like MARC. And then it ended up going on like a t-shirt, a billboard on Melrose Place above like our women's collection store. And I'm just like, cool. Because it's not like really my thing. At one point, they had like a seamless like wall there. And me and another coworker were just like skating in the parking lot. And security's like, "Hey, you can't skate in here or skate in the parking lot." And we're like, "All right, whatever." And the owner who was inside was like, "Hey, you guys didn't want to skate anymore outside?" And they're like, "Oh, the security told us we couldn't skate outside." And then he goes, "Oh, well, we're paying for the place, so if you want to skate the wall, go ahead." So we're absolutely fucking up this like seamless wall by just skating it as like a quarter pipe. And then one of my other coworkers who was like skating it ended up getting a billboard in like Savannah when we did a set of like a set of skateboards. Marc Jacobs skateboards. It was wild. Yeah.
So one of the ones it didn't make the cut because there were so many great ones for our intro was the fact that you turned down $100,000 to take a shot of tequila.
Yeah.
I definitely need to know about this, and I'm sure many listeners would like to. So if you can, please illuminate.
Also happened at Marc Jacobs. Surprise, surprise.
All good things happened at Marc Jacobs.
It was like a crazy place to work. Like it was super fun, but like my coworkers were insane. But every time the owner would come into town, this isn't Marc Jacobs. This is a guy named Robert Duffy, who was the guy who found Marc Jacobs. So he like found Marc Jacobs at Parsons, put all the money into him, and like they became partners, like business partners.
Yeah.
And so he would like to come to stores and like kind of just check on everything, and they do swap out window displays and whatnot. But every time he'd come into town, it was like, "Oh, okay, we're going to dinner here, we're going to dinner there." So we'd shut down the store early and everyone had to go home, get like dressed up, and then go to dinner. So there was a time where we were at Chateau Marmont. And so we rented out like half of the Chateau Marmont dining space. So it's all us. Everyone's drinking. I'm like, but like nobody at Chateau security wise like cares what we do because they just pump whatever money. If something gets broken, they just take care of it. So it's like it's crazy. I'm like, these people are crazy rich. I was like, if the owner ever wanted to like get rid of my body, like no one would even know I was gone. Like it was wild. So we're there, and like the prior like dinner we had, like he found out I was straight edge. We had a big conversation, blah blah blah. And then this dinner, he's got like a cash case with him that he usually always has. And at the end of the dinner, everyone's been drinking and everything. He's like, Jeremy, come over here. I'm like, okay, what's up, Robert? And he's like, I'll give you $100,000 cash if you take this shot of tequila. And I was like, bullshit. Show me the cash. Fucking opens this case. Everyone at the table just goes silent. And I was like, fuck, man. And I had been straight edge for like 15 years at the time, I think now, or then. And I was just like, I'm good. I was like, because at the time I based everything off of like, will this buy me an Aston Martin DB9 straight out from a dealership? So that's my mindset at 24, 25.
That's so sick.
Because I was like, yeah, it's $100,000, but like, I'll blow that so fast and it won't even be on what I wanted. And then I give up like half my life for something that I didn't even get me, like something that I really wanted that was like unobtainable to me.
That's mad respect. So you passed down a shot of tequila and $100,000.
Yeah. But so awesome. This happens, and then he's like, that's why I like you. And I was like, oh shit, okay. He's like, and then he tells me this story. He's like, Louis Vuitton offered me $1 million to design them a bag, and I said no. And then there was a company, a little TV station in India that said it would help a lot of people if I came on, and so I denied Louis Vuitton and like helped those people instead. And he's like, that's why I like you. And then after that, like, he was like stoked on me because his thing was like buying people. He liked to buy people. I found out later on.
Yeah.
And so after that, like, they had offered me like an operations job in New York. He's like, oh, you got to be closer to us. You got to move to New York. And I'm just like, I'm born and raised California. I'm not, no way I'm fucking living in New York. I was like, I'll visit. So I got to like fly out for like Fashion Week after that, like for the next like 5 years. And so that was cool.
That's
so
awesome.
So like, yeah, I got like a lot of respect from him after that, I guess, because no one else in the company was like that. Everyone else was like, yeah, money.
Dude. All right. So that's going to be hard to top, but what is your favorite little known fact?
Oof. Favorite little known fact. Oh my gosh. About me or just in general?
Just in general.
In general, favorite little known fact. Oh man. I'm like all mixed up and stuff right now.
Check your email.
I know, I'm looking right now. That's the worst part. I'm like going through all my answers and be like, oh yeah, what did I say? Oh yeah. Hollywood isn't a real place. I used to have because I used to work with a lot of transplants. They're like, I live in Hollywood, and I'm like, that's not a real place. And they'd be like, what? And I'm like, North Hollywood is a place. West Hollywood is a place. Hollywood is not a real place. I was like, everyone knows it is Hollywood just because of the sign, but it was just literally like a housing project called Hollywood Land, and it's just Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And like nobody.
So it is really true that no one can actually go to Hollywood.
Yeah,
it's not possible.
If you send a letter to Hollywood, California, it ain't going anywhere.
Yeah, it's coming back to you.
Exactly.
Is where it's going. So to people that would mail such letters, what would be your favorite non-traditional curse word to utter in their direction?
Oh my gosh. I only really stick to like traditional ones. It'd be like, you're kind of a retard. I don't go too far out of the non-traditional space.
No references to people's brains or anything like that.
Sometimes, you know what? It's a lot of smooth brain. It's a lot of smooth brain ideas. Yeah. Like, I've learned that just like, oh, people get really upset if you just call them a smooth brain. It's like, I've seen so many people explode over like,
Unless they are truly a smooth brain, and then they won't get it.
oh, yeah. Yeah.
That's the best part.
They're
is
like,
that to the people that you actually like, it would be mean to call them that because they are. It's not going to like register as an insult.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Oh, man.
this is one of my favorite ones you put down here. What is your silliest childhood belief?
Oh my gosh. Dude, my grandma, everybody always implemented it. It's like, oh, don't turn the dome light on because you're going to get pulled over.
Yeah.
And it was funny because, like, even until a month ago, my girlfriend believed that was a thing. She was like, oh, you can't drive with it on. And I was like, that's actually not a law. That's not real. That's not true. Like, and for the longest time, I was like, fuck, I gotta turn this shit off. Gotta turn this shit off.
I mean, I think we have the same reasoning, which is like driving around growing up. My dad was like, anytime we turned on the dome light to pick something up, look at something, it was like it felt like a grenade. You had to like turn it off so fast after you turn it on. He's just like, quick, I'm driving. We could die.
I think it's an unwritten like parent rule that they're like, listen, if
Like
it's
that in
not
the
true
thermostat.
and you don't like it, just tell them it's illegal. This is the worst thing that you could do. And you're like, I okay.
If you say so.
Won't touch the air conditioning. Apparently it's illegal.
So
Yeah,
kind of angling towards your passion, what is your favorite industry term that nobody knows about or nobody knows what it means?
oh my goodness. Well, so I had originally said it was like 10-1, 10-2,
Mhm.
which is it's like an industry term if you have work in an industry that uses walkie-talkies. Because it's one of those things where you're just always like, oh, 10-1. And people are like, okay, cool. Oh, where's this person at? Oh, 10-2. And like nobody like says anything. And they're like, okay. And like that was like what I originally had thrown in there. And then I was just like, oh my God, the Kino run. I'm gonna keep the 10-1, 10-2 secret. So unless you know in the industry.
What is the Kino run?
But the Kino run I have created, which was the best part. So me and one of my lighting guys were on set, and we're down on like 3rd Street in West Hollywood, and we're at like a pizza place, and we have to go ahead and run to this little restaurant right down the street that's probably maybe a quarter of a block away from our shooting location to just set up and like pre-light and everything for the next shot. And so we're over there, and as we're going, we realize we're passing Magnolia Bakery, and we're like, "Oh man, we really need some banana pudding," because we're like Magnolia Bakery, best banana pudding. And so we get over there, and I was like, "Yo, we already finished pre-lighting. I'm gonna run over and grab banana pudding." He's like, "All right, sick." So we run over. I run over there. He's watching location, and I realize that we're like in range, the radios of like our production coordinator and like everybody. So I get there and I go, oh no, there's 2 different flavors. There's chocolate banana pudding and regular banana pudding. And so sneakily, I'm think I'm such a genius. I go, hey, did you want a dark Kino or a light Kino? And in his head, he's just like, what is he talking about? Because he's just like, there's only one banana pudding.
Yeah.
And Kino is a light on set. So it was like and I'm with my lighting guy. So I'm like, did you want the vanilla Kino or the dark Kino? And then he's like, oh shit. And so our production coordinator goes, well, if you're getting Kinos, I want a vanilla Kino, please. And she picked it up real quick, and we're like, oh fuck. So we grab her a banana pudding, me a banana pudding, and my lighting guy a banana pudding. And then from then on, anytime it was like a snack run, it became a kino run. So it was kind of sick, and like it was only like us three that knew it. So it's like, oh, I'm gonna do a kino run. It was like cool, and so it was kind of like we've now changed the lighting into our snack run.
As you should.
Yeah, but
So, go ahead, sorry.
But when you teach someone about the kino run, and they don't know that it's a light, it kind of becomes a problem. Because we had another production coordinator who had learned about the kino run.
Mhm.
And me and my normal lighting guy weren't on set that day. And so they had like a regular lighting guy.
Oh no.
And so he's like, hey, I'm going to go to the truck and grab a kino. And then she goes, okay, so where are you going? And he's like, the truck. And she's like, well, yeah, but what are you going to get? He's like, I'm getting a kino out of the truck. And she's like, yeah, but where? And so she's running. They're just running in circles. He goes, gets a light, and comes back. And she's like, where'd you go? And he's like, the truck to grab this kino. And she's like, oh. And instantly
you meant literally.
And just doesn't say anything. I show up the next day, and she's like, you fucking asshole. You didn't tell me a kino was a light. And I was like, you work on set. How did you not know a kino was a light? Thus the birth of the kino run.
That's awesome. So for those of you that haven't picked up on it already, Jeremy may or may not work in the industry that is in the fictional land of Hollywood. What would you say is your passion and or your job that you are getting to blissfully live out as we speak?
I get to work in like the TV movie industry, and honestly, I just like I love it.
What is your official title for those who are curious?
My official title in the union is a second assistant camera. So it goes like you have your like runner at the bottom, and then you have like somebody that just kind of handles all the cords and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And then so it's more of like the entry level. So it's second AC, first AC, camera operator, DP throughout our union. And each one it's like a little more bump and pay to like get in and everything. But pretty much everything entitles my title job as second AC. I do all the camera prepping. I do all the camera building. Pretty much everything the operator isn't doing before he gets handed the camera. So I'm dealing with like making sure all the batteries are done, all the memory cards are good. Everything that has to do with like all the footage and everything goes into my hands. And so it's kind of like if anything is wrong with the footage, anything's corrupt, it's like it falls back on me, which is stressful at times.
All right, this might sound derogatory to some, but so would a good comparison or a good corollary be like saying you're the secretary to the cameraman, just the way, or like kind of like you're the secretary of the cameraman, you're doing all the like light work.
It's kind of like the sniper and the dude who like has to calculate it, and your spotter.
Yeah. Okay, so you're like the spotter for the camera.
Yeah. So he's pretty much just hit and play, and just like even at times I'm pulling focus. So if he's on a gimbal or something, I'm on a follow focus, which is a pretty much transmitter. Like I'm holding a remote that is controlling the lens that's focusing the camera.
Mm-hmm.
So it's pretty much at times I'm also working on the camera as well, and he's just pointing and shooting.
So when you started, we're gonna travel back in time. When did you first fall in love with cinema? When did you want to like get into this line of work?
Ever since I was a little kid. I grew up just like on movies and TV and everything. So it's kind of like something I've always wanted to do. And it was like, I didn't know if it'd ever be attainable. I did so many different jobs, and I ended up getting a good like network of friends that just happened to be also in the industry and fell into everything I wanted to.
Did you grow up here in Los Angeles, or did you move here?
So I grew up in Long Beach and
Okay.
the South Bay, but I was born in Northern California.
Okay. But
So,
you kind of grew up in and around Hollywood, for lack of a better term,
yeah.
being in your backyard. So this was always nearby. It wasn't something that you made this great trek to go do. So you're growing up loving movies, but you're working, all these odd jobs. You're doing repo in high school. You're,
Yeah.
you're modeling incidentally after working at the store. There's all this happening. When did it like fall into your lap? Did you see an opportunity and take it? What was your first step towards achieving this dream?
So I had a friend that I'd known since I was 18 who knew me throughout like all my like retail working career, and she was always a good friend, and she was from the Valley, and she had done she's always done casting. And at one point she was just like, "Hey, you want to travel more, you should get hooked up with my friend who's a production coordinator or a production manager." And I was like, "Sure." She's like, "Hop on set, see if you like, if you actually enjoy it and like it, um, and like let me know what you think." So she's a good friend, old good friend, and reaches out to her production coordinator and goes, "Hey, I have somebody who's like looking for work who's like really solid. Could you bring him in as a PA, which is a production assistant?" And I don't know what any of that is. And I was like, "All right, cool." Like I knew things about movies and all that and TV, but I'm like, I don't know the inner workings.
Yeah,
I'm just like, "Oh, cool."
you were a fanboy of cinema. You weren't like a behind the
Yeah.
scenes kind of guy. Yeah.
Yeah, because at one point I was just like, you live in LA, you don't really like want to work in the industry. That's for transplants. And I'm like, we work normal jobs, whatever. And then so I ended up meeting with this coordinator on set one day, and she's like, "Hey, uh, here's the schedule. I'm gonna bring you in. We'll see how you do." And I'm like, "All right, cool." So my first day on set, it's just like, okay, production assistant, you're run around. It's pretty like obvious. You just don't fuck up. It's like, can you drive a van? Oh, cool. You're solid. I learned real quick that just being able to drive anything was quite a feat because no one else could do it other that was like at my entry level position. So, like the first day they're like, "Oh, you're great, we love you, awesome, like do you want to work with us the rest of the shoot?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure." So my first show ever, or first day on set, I was doing it was called the Shawnee O'Neal Project, and it was supposed to be the um reality show for Shaquille O'Neal's ex-wife and his kids. And so that happens, and then they shoot the little like pilot for it. I get hit back up to do this show that's like what was her name? This was so long ago. It was a hairstylist named Tabitha who they were giving a host role to flip like businesses, to help businesses out. And ended up going on that run for like a good year. Had a really good team with like a lighting guy and it was a smaller team. So it's a reality show. We had a smaller team. It was, I think, maybe like 6 of us shooting this whole thing. And so we have the producers, coordinator, me, and like 2 other PAs and our operators. So I'm like, "Oh, this is cool. I like camera stuff. Like, I think this is really cool." Like high school, I took our communications class, was like a broadcasting class. So I kind of knew very little, but something.
Yeah.
And so I noticed that our camera guy, because we had one guy for 3 cameras, and I'm like, or our camera assistant. So I go, hey, do you need any help? Like, if you show me how to throw these together, like, I'll help as much as I can. So he teaches me how to build our cameras on set, and I'm like, awesome. And then our lighting guy is like giving me all these terms. He's like, oh, give me that Cardellini, and I was like, I don't know what that is. I was like, but if you show me once, I'll remember it. So he's like, oh, this is a Cardellini. This is your LED panel. Like, I was like, okay, cool. So like, and then I learned that like everything had like 5 different terms for the same damn thing.
Because reasons.
Yeah, it was just like people just would call everything had a nickname, like C47s. It's like, oh, grab the C47s, and I was like, what the fuck is a C47? Right? And it's literally just a clothespin.
Yeah, it's a clothespin. I remember learning that in film school and being actively angry.
Oh, it was so insane. I was like,
fucking dumb.
This is the best kind of like scam you could ever pull. Why did I not think of just creating random things and giving them a cinema tax? So I ended up being on this show for a year. So I didn't know that there was like a slow period in my industry or anything.
Yeah.
And learned as much as I could. And like probably about 6 months in, we had gone through a couple ACs just because they were hopping on other shows. They didn't think this show was going to be going for a year with pickups and everything. And so one of our producers is in a car with our production coordinator, and they're kind of going back and forth, just kind of giving each other a hard time. And they're like, one of them's like, yeah, I know the name of everybody on set. And they're like, oh yeah, okay. What's the name of the guy with the tattoos? And they're like, oh yeah, I know his job. I can't remember his name, but I know his face perfectly. So they're like, okay, what's his job? And they're like, he's our AC. He's our first assistant camera. And I'm like, she tells me this later on, and I was like, hey, can I get that AC bump or what? And she's just like, no, you don't even know what you're doing. I was like, apparently I know enough. But by the end of the show, I got to do a couple of days as an AC. So that was super cool. I got to build out like a little assistant camera kit, which is like, you have all your expendables. Expendables is just like everything you use, like all your gaff tape, all your batteries, all your lens tissues, all your like everything you use to upkeep camera and everything. So I like built one of those out on my first show and like got to do a couple AC days. So it ended up being a really cool experience on my first show.
Was that something that now or even back then could have gotten you in trouble because you weren't, certified with the union, or was this like not?
So it was a non-union show. So with a non-union show, it's like people can do multiple jobs, kind of thing.
They want.
Pretty much. Like I was recently on a show since I'd been in the union where it was a non-union show, and it was a slower time in the industry. So it was kind of like, all right, you're going to hop on whatever show is kind of asking right now. And so ended up being on a 6-month run for a show while I'm in the union, and I'm doing media management. I'm doing assistant camera. They tried to get me to operate at one point, and I was like, listen, you're going to bump my pay more, and it's going to double if you're trying to get me to operate. So I was like, that's just the way it is. And they ended up getting like a BA to operate. And shaky cam footage.
You were 18 when you were first on set? Am I tracking?
No. So I knew my friend that I had since I was 18. She had always worked in the industry. I didn't hop into the industry and probably till like 2 years after Mark Jacobs, around there. I kind of took a year off, and then I was in welding school after that. And then that's when I kind of hopped in the industry, just kind of going to school.
How old are we at the time?
I think I'm about 27, 28 at the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
So 27, 28, your first kind of getting your feet wet. When did you get to the position that you have now? When did you get certified and, get in with a guild to be second AC?
So that was probably about 2 years ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, 2 years ago now. So it's very recent, because I had been working on so many like non-union shows, and it was just consistent pay. So it's one of those things where it's just like, yeah, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah.
And then I got offered a union show that I wasn't able to do, and I was like, "Ah, well, this sucks." And the company I was working for through COVID was like, "Hey, so we can get you on as a media manager, and we're going to help you out, and we'll give you your title. That way, you get your days because you have to have so many days in that position
Yeah.
to apply for union. But if you're on a union show when you do it, you only need 30 days." And so I was on this show for 4 months, had my days, had my hours, was able to apply, and was able to work on another union show a couple months afterwards too. So it was like my pay increased, health benefits, kind of everything. I get weird discounts on like Disneyland and whatnot.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So was this how many as far as you've noticed, how many union gigs versus non-union gigs are there? Is that like, are you kind of picking up the pieces that are left on the cutting room floor to get non-union gigs, or are they relatively similar equity as far as either the prestige of the project or the pay that you get?
I mean, during COVID and before COVID, everything was like, it was an abundance of work. And then after COVID and the big strikes, everything took like a big halt. So it's like last year I took probably a 6 month gig out of town just because it
Mm-hmm.
was so slow in the industry. I had people that I hadn't heard from in like years. But kind of the union and non-union thing, it all depends on like who you know. With like a
Sure.
lot, as it is with like a lot of industries.
Yeah.
But it's like a lot of people who are directors of photography. So that's like your main guy who's kind of putting your camera crew together. They have their crews already.
Yeah.
So it's like bigger stuff, like movie wise, it's like you get a certain DP who knows the director, and it's like people who are able to see other people's visions and they trust. And so they're like, I trust this is my crew. This, I know they can shoot, I know they can do this. So to get into like established crews is a little harder, and a lot of those crews are already like kind of set for a lot of the big pictures in the industry. So, and it's like a bit of a transition to get out of reality and like TV into the film, like just straight film. So
So
non-union wise, there's a lot more. There was a lot more work, uh, and then like certain shows are union. I believe The Voice is union, American Ninja Warriors union when it comes to like game shows and things like that.
mhm.
Yeah.
Are there things that people would have seen that are surprisingly not union, or is most of the stuff that you see on like major television or billboards usually union?
Um, a lot of it's not union. It's mainly like any sort of like reality stuff is
Hmm.
usually non-union. So you have like
So what about like
Kardashians.
what about like television, like traditional sitcoms or movies that somebody would see at the theater? Is that generally
So
speaking union?
usually it's union. Like if it's like an oddball, like say Nicolas Cage with Pig, was an independent film. And so that's just like an independent company putting it out. So it's usually non-union. Or low budget stuff will be non-union. Um, but a lot of the big film industry, like any Marvel thing, any like Tarantino thing, you'll see any Yahtzee symbol at the end, which is the International Guild of like for filmmakers and like cinematographers. So you'll see that at the end of most movies, and it's like almost every movie is a union movie.
Hmm.
But it's a lot of these movies also only shoot for like maybe 3 months.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
So would you say that your current position being second AC, is that your dream involvement with cinema, or do you want to go further and do something either like kind of higher up the pay scale or in a different aspect of it?
I absolutely want to keep going. So this is kind of like my foot in the door with the union. I've like now I can just keep progressing because the more things, like once stuff starts rolling in more with the industry right now, because we're in like a slow period because it's in between contracts and everything. Um, I eventually want to DP, which is director of photography, and it's kind of your taking care of everything. Like you have your
Okay.
camera guys, your usually the DP is running it the A cam. If you have like multiple cameras, uh, it's pretty much you're taking the director's vision and creating that reality. So you're in charge of the lighting, you're in charge of like how everything looks. You're in charge of like that vision of creating. But um I hopefully will be able to like create my own show one day as well.
So, if there was someone who you could work with or collab with in the industry, whether it be now, like given your second AC position, or later on, if you ended up being DP, who would you want to work with?
Oh, John Carpenter. Hands down, John Carpenter. I would love to shoot a John Carpenter movie. Like he's always had this like nostalgia for me as a kid that he's just like always had crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Like Big Trouble in Little China, The Thing. Like he's always had just like crazy movies that it feels like almost a trauma movie, but on a big budget that's just done less kooky. Like he somewhat has a vision that's just not so out of it that it's like, all right, this is kind of crazy, but I'm running along with it and it's sick.
So I don't remember if it was his first movie, but one of his earlier movies is the original Halloween, right?
Yeah. That's
So
kind of what made him big and put him on the map.
Yeah. So I had the very lucky circumstance to I don't know how we got him, but Dean Cundy, the guy who was director of photography for a couple, at least the first Halloween, but I think one or two of his other movies, as well as many other big movies that have kind of been Hallmark kind of Hollywood classics. And he came to the junior college I was going to and spoke to our like tiny little film department. And apparently on the set of the first Halloween, the way the movie was funded was there was like this local, like I think he was like a mattress magnate, and he gave them like $200,000 or $300,000 for this movie, and his only notes were, "I want cheerleaders, I want them to die, I want them to be Halloween," and those were his only notes. And anytime Dean or John would show him the dailies and be like, "Oh, what do you think?" He's just like, he wouldn't look at him and goes, "Are there cheerleaders?" They're like, "Yeah." He's like, "Do they die?" They're like, "Yeah."
My
He's like, "Is it Halloween?" They're like, "Yeah." He's like, "Good," and he would just leave. Like,
oh my god,
that was it's like the best producer of all time. Just
that's
like
so amazing.
a sentence and then I'm out.
That's so sick. Like when I was in high school, I was in like drama, surprise, and we lucky like I don't know how it happened. I was like, oh cool, whatever. At the time, and then I was like, more I look at it, I'm like, this is awesome. We had the writer and like producer of American History X come in and talk about it.
Oh damn.
And he just kind of like went over things like here's how I like put it together. I like had heard stories from Venice about things happening where like the whole curb stomp scene was like something that apparently had happened, like that he had heard that was a story. So who knows if it's real or not, but
Yeah.
he was saying that it was like based on like a real thing. And me with like just this punk rock kid at the time, just a goober of a thing. I was like, oh cool, you're ever gonna make maybe like a punk movie with the worst question ever. And I was like, I look back and I'm like, wow, this dude who like wrote and directed, he made like Get Carter and like SWAT. And like, it was just like, yeah, cool. You make a punk movie because I don't care about anything else. I'm like, oh my god, like such a kid question.
Yeah. So, what would you, if you could paint a picture for those who have no experience like many do with your circumstance, what does a day or a week in the life of an AC or a second AC when you are working? Because a lot of the time, as you kind of said, now even you're not really working, you're kind of in between gigs, which is very much part and parcel with the industry. But when you are working, generally speaking, how does your day kind of go?
Usually call is like a 6 a.m. call, 7 a.m. call, kind of depending on what we're shooting. The last show I was on was like a 6:30 a.m. call, and we're doing like a car shoot. So they're trying to pack in as much as we can for 2 days. Wake up, hop in the van, everybody heads to set. We kind of get a breakfast, which is kind of nice. So if it's like a rule that if it's a 7 a.m. or before call, they're supposed to get us breakfast. So this company's a great company that I've been working with. They have a whole like catering truck that comes out. We get our breakfast, and then we prep our cameras. So everything gets prepped, whether it be since it's the car shoot, we're doing GoPros, 10 of them. We're loading all the batteries, loading all the memory cards, formatting all the memory cards. We have 4 cameras. Everything's getting the memory cards formatted, which is pretty much just means we're clearing everything, so we're starting fresh. All the cameras getting labeled with like ABC 001, 002, 003 on tape that goes on the side of the camera that we just peel off when we pull a memory card. And so once that they swap memory cards, that gets slapped on, and you do not lose it. You do not do anything with it until you get it to your media management. So all that prepping and prepping and prepping, and then just like grabbing your radio, hooking up your chest rig, making sure everybody's on the same making sure everybody's on the same like channel for everything, because all our departments are separated, cameras on one channel. And then once it's time to shoot, everyone's just kind of in their places ready to go. Our DP calls out action, gets everything set up with hosts, and kind of just start shooting from there. After that, it's just kind of swap batteries and memory cards when needed till lunchtime. Lunchtime, we do a refresh of everything. But most of the time, it's like we're constantly swapping batteries, because if camera dies, anything like any camera dies,
if camera dies, you die.
Pretty much, like, because if something happens and you miss it, that's like the whole reason we're there. Like if a camera rolls or something, it's like, make sure you get it. Make sure everyone's okay. Like we have medics on set, so obviously they have to go first, but to clear everything before we can get in there. But it's like we have drones, we have 3 regular cameras, we have cameras on the cars, and it's pretty much everything has to be constant. But it's also with those shoots, those car shoots, it's you have batteries trying to die on 10 GoPros that it's split between 2 cameras. And so you're checking constantly after every drag race run. You're like, okay, what's going on? What are we at? Cold temperatures love to kill batteries. If you're shooting in like anything that's freezing temperatures, your batteries last probably about 50 to 75% less power. Or they lose 75% more power within like a matter of minutes. It sucks so bad. I had one shoot where I'm having to go into a cryo chamber, and I had a camera that and we had to do it as quick as we could. We knew we were going to lose the battery real quick. So I throw it up. We get the talent in the cryo chamber, and it, like, a full charge on this camera battery is supposed to last about 3 hours. It died within a minute and a half. So some temperatures will destroy battery just because it's like, you got to figure a battery is moving molecules. And if you stop those molecules from moving in these temperatures, they're dead. But as soon as you warm up a battery, it could be fully charged again without even having to put it on anything, just because of the temperature.
Funny.
Yeah. So it's kind of crazy with like certain shoots, like a lot of outdoor shoots, depending on like weather will mess with your stuff. Like if it's too hot out, your cameras will try to overheat. And I've been
Yeah.
on sets where we've gotten cold towels and ice packs just to put over the cameras where to keep them from like
Stay with us,
overheating.
buddy. Come on.
Oh my
Come
gosh.
on.
Absolutely. ICU camera techs. And it's like, because if your camera dies, it has a chance to fry the memory card or corrupt the memory card, and you'll lose all the footage that's on it. And we were shooting in 103-degree weather, and there was like no shade. At one point, we had umbrellas for our camera guys that we had PAs just kind of holding over
Yeah.
to like just so they could shoot because it was too hot because they're shouldered up the whole time. But temperature is a big factor, but it's kind of a constant watch everything, manage everything until lunchtime. Lunchtime, cool. You finally get a breath of fresh air. Nothing but you just make sure everything's on charge and like check everything. Just like kind of check out for a minute and just enjoy lunch. After that, it's back into the same repeat until we finish. And most of our days are like minimum 10-hour day. Shoot days are always based on a 10-hour day, but they usually go over. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
So often in movies and TV, they like to show movies and TV. In your estimation, from what you've seen, not necessarily because they're probably sadly not focusing in on second ACs, but when it comes to the camera department, how have they portrayed the camera department correctly and incorrectly in movies that showcase themselves? If you
Oh
will?
my goodness. Okay, spoiler alert if you haven't seen The Fall Guy, but not crazy spoiler alert. It's like we're not going too in depth. I think The Fall Guy covers camera crew perfectly.
Nice.
Like that movie is a movie for people that have like worked in the industry, and every little detail of like behind the scenes that happens is pretty accurate to every little thing. Like even with like certain romances on set, just from like little people complaining about little things, just like, oh, my coffee, like as cheesy as that and like as that is, like people will get so upset about their coffees, and it's like a lot of laughable stuff. I used to write a lot of stuff down when I first started because I was just like, this stuff is ridiculous. Everyone is so numb to how like ridiculous some of this stuff is. I would write it down. Just because I was like, after I'm in this industry for years, I'm gonna go numb to like this stuff too. And I'm just not gonna notice. But I would say like most of the time they're pretty good about like if there's like a camera department or something in a movie, like
they're actually, I mean, I guess it would be really sad if they weren't on point because they're surrounded by it constantly.
Yeah, it's pretty spot on. Just because like these are the people that they're constantly with, so it's like they have the resources.
I guess that would be like incredibly sad if they just like if they get it wrong when surrounded by the source.
Yeah, it's like there's a dramatized show that it's about a producer working on The Bachelor. They don't name it The Bachelor or anything, but it was an ex-producer that wrote it, and that whole thing is like pretty spot on for reality. Like it's pretty messed up for some. Like I worked on a show where they constantly fed the cast just like so many drinks. It was like a reality competition show in a house, and just constantly just like feeding them booze until like somebody got speared through a fake wall and almost took out our audio guy. It was wild. But everything stays pretty accurate for like the camera side of like if you see it on film and stuff.
What would you say is the biggest misconception when you talk to people outside the industry and you tell them, "Oh yeah, I'm a second AC," other than like having to explain your title? What do they usually get wrong or assume incorrectly?
Most of the time, people are like, "Oh, what do you do?" And I just kind of say, "I work in the camera department." It's kind of like when somebody is like, like if you go out of the country and you're like, I'm from Pomona, and they're like, cool. What's that? You're like, LA.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, because I've done a lot of different things in the only time I really do AC work is when I'm on a union show now, because I keep trying to progress my skills every time. So I do a lot more operating now. So I'll do camera operating. I'll do a little bit of editing. Like, it's one of
Okay.
those things where it's like, once you join the industry, it's like if you're constantly gaining knowledge, and I try to learn as much as I can from the people around me. Um, like when I was on a travel show, we had a mobile video village. Video villages where just kind of where all the producers are, with a ton of like monitors, like big TVs with every camera feed going to those things so that they can see everything. They're kind of like the eye in the sky.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm a PA at the time, and just kind of I'm good at reading a room. And so I'd constantly watch, because in the back half of our video village were the robo ops, and we're doing like a Gordon Ramsay show. And so I had known one of our operators from another show that I had previously worked on. And so I'm watching him, seeing what he does. And he's just like on a little joystick, cycling through 7 different cameras that are like security cameras almost. And it's just like, we call them robocams because they're just robot operating cams. And at one point I'm like watching, it's probably like a month into us working every day, and he's like, hey, I'm gonna take lunch, hop on. And I was like, wait, what? And he's like, yeah, I'm gonna have you cover, you like, you know what you're doing, you've been watching, you like and there was like another operator next to him that he was like, yeah, she was like, hop on in. And so uh I learned how to do like RoboCam on that show, and it was like playing a video game. I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. And so it's like, I wasn't constantly doing it, but it was like at that time I was able, during like a downtime where it's like not peak, things are happening, I got to learn. And so every set I try to learn something, even if it's just what not to do. There's always something to learn. So if I'm able to progress, I try to ask questions. Like right now, I try to, whenever I get stuck around a Steadicam operator. So Steadicam is when you see a guy with like a full chest rig and he's got like a suspension arm that comes off of it, and then there's like a big stick with a camera on top. That's a Steadicam. And so it's a stabilizer that kind of lets you run around without like getting that camera jiggle, camera jump. It just makes everything smooth. Because like I really, really want to do Steadicam, but we're gonna get there at some point. And now's right now is not the time we're there.
So what would you say is your favorite non-obvious aspect? Most people don't know it. You might have to explain why you love being a second AC to people, because I mean, to be honest, even in title, it does sound kind of like it sounds like something that you don't have to earn, more something where you kind of get like put.
Uh Not really. It's one of those knowledge based things. Like everything that has to do with the camera setup, like whether it be the ISO, your filters, anything that has to do with the operator not pressing like record,
Yeah.
is all falls on me. So it's kind of, we as like ACs are the like oh my goodness, blanking on the word for it right now. We're the troubleshooters of everything.
Hell yeah.
So it's kind of like we're constantly figuring out if there's a problem, we're fixing it. If there's a problem with like a Steadicam, we're fixing it. If they're like, we have to figure out the problem, we have to diagnose everything, and we have to do it fast.
You're like the
So,
pit crew of camera operators.
yes, absolutely. And
Hell
then
yeah.
and then at the end of it, we're the ones passing off the footage. So operators aren't touching footage. It's just us, and like we're the first person to touch it when it goes in the camera, and the last person to touch, and the first person to touch it when it comes out of the camera. So anything that happens to that footage, and it's like it comes back on us. And footage is the only thing that really matters on set, because if you lose it, you have nothing.
Yeah.
And I've had like an AC that lost footage once, and I haven't seen them in the industry since. Like, it's one thing to have a corrupt card because it's like, okay, we could take it to like a hard drive recovery place, and they might be
Also,
able
I
to,
mean, to some extent, it's
extract.
probably not as assumed to be your fault at that juncture, right?
When it comes to corrupt footage,
Yeah. Like if footage gets corrupted, like there is some amount of like, well, maybe, right?
not really. Not
Oh.
really. We because we're constantly monitoring the cameras. So
Okay.
operators may catch it, but it's constantly us monitoring cameras. Like we notice something on the lens because we have our own monitors as well. Like we're going we're checking on everything that's operating, that make sure the camera's operating properly and the way it should be. But then we're also checking to make sure, like, if there's a smudge on the lens, if there's something on like the camera that's just not working properly or anything, it's on us to fix it or figure out what's going on with it. Like if there's a camera that's not working and it goes out into the field, that's on us. Because we're prepping everything and testing it all before it even gets to set. So we usually do like a prep day at a rental house, which is we're running the camera through all of its normal steps, making sure every battery works. Because it's like anything that doesn't work, it knocks us down and slows us down. And then time on set is really hard to get back.
So moving on from such a awesome subject to something that might be a little bit more annoying, Jeremy, what is your preposterous peeve?
Oh my goodness. Oh my gosh. Pre-ripped fucking jeans. I fucking don't get it. Like, I don't get it. Especially like tight ripped jeans. It's like, what the fuck? Like, you only see like shitheads and dudes that like to be like, yeah, bro, you're not alpha, bro, kind of shit. Or like just like saggy fucking tight jeans. Like, I get it if you've ripped your jeans, but pre-ripped jeans, I don't get it. Like, I just
Gotta
don't
earn
get
your
it,
stripes,
dude. I get. I don't know, man. It's just one of those things that I'm like, why? You look so stupid. Like, come on. Ugh.
Was this before or after you started working at Marc Jacobs that this became like a true issue for you?
You know what? We didn't really get like ripped jean people. Like we sold a pant once that was like the boyfriend jean, which was it was literally called the boyfriend jean. It was like a baggy jean, like just like a big baggy jean, like something you would take from your boyfriend, and we sold it at the women's store.
Oh my god!
And it was called the boyfriend jean. So it's like, oh, I just stole my boyfriend jean.
Got it. Okay, that's kind of cute. I get it.
I'm like, I get it, but like, I think that was the only thing I saw that was like a pre-ripped knee, and I was like, even that, I was like, come on. I'm like, we're better than this. Come on. Oh my goodness. Yeah, ripped jeans. Like, even when I get like a hole in my jeans, I'm like, maybe it's time to just, toss it. Goofy ass shit.
When did you first notice this kind of getting your attention and pissing you off?
Oh my goodness, dude. I used to go to a lot of clubs. Surprise, surprise. And they were all in Hollywood. And so you'd get a lot of like just douchebags that were like, think they look really cool. And it's like that whole I don't know, maybe it's a peacocking thing, but it's like you see it out and you're like, fuck that guy. Like his like ripped pants have become like his personality. And it's just like,
does it matter if he earned it? Like if it was like some guy that you knew as a skater and he had just come in,
I mean,
does that change your perception, or is it still just like, bruh, come on, just like get on some?
No, because somebody that skates, if like you rip your pants, you're like, fuck, I need a new pair of pants. Because you're like, you don't want your skin hitting on shit. I'm like, you're a fucking idiot. And anyone listening that wears ripped jeans, You're a fucking idiot.
You smooth brain
Oh my god. Oh,
motherfucker.
oh my god, it's the fucking worst.
Do you have a story for the listeners out there of perhaps a time where this really just got out of hand? You might have lost your shit. Somebody might have been explicitly stupid.
I wish I did, but it's just like I
Always the same Muppet.
yeah. Like now it's evolved into like I think the guy who wears like the Yeezys.
Yeah.
It's like
they definitely
and a ripped
went from
jean,
ripped
like,
jeans
goes
to Yeezys
together.
for sure. Oh yeah.
It's the worst.
Two peas in a piss head.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just like bad.
Well, lastly, before we throw it to a commercial break, if you could have listeners of this podcast hear one song of your choosing, which would it be?
Oh, I think it'd be Bane, Struck Down by Me. It's an old favorite.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Well, with that, we're going to throw it to our sponsors. So Jeremy can have a minute here to put on this rubber suit before we get all up in the lightning round. But if advertisements aren't your thing, why not have a listen to Struck Down by Me by Bane? Or if you really wanted to hear a song from a previous episode, check out the post on Spotify, Passionate People and Preposterous Pete Podcast, Song Rex. It's a long title, I know. Don't worry, there's a link in the description. Either way, see y'all in a bit. Have you ever just looked at fried carbs on a plate and thought, I need to eat those, but it doesn't taste all that appetizing? Introducing catsup. Catsup is a sugary and red syrupy paste that'll overshadow any unappreciated taste. Simply douse the unpreferred tasting object and ingest. Mmm. Thanks, catsup. And we're back. Jeremy, are you ready to enter lightning round?
The lightning round.
Oh man, I guess so.
All right. Put however much time it takes to bake this cookie on the clock. Would you rather have a teleporter or a time machine?
Oh, teleporter, easy. Like the time I live in now is great.
Make the food or do the dishes?
Make the food, absolutely. I hate cleanup.
Are you being the person Mr. Rogers knew you could be?
Fuck Mr. Rogers, man.
Whoa.
Definitely not.
Is chocolate chip the best cookie?
No, I don't think so.
Do people who prefer Pepsi to Coke deserve human rights?
Neither. Both are trash, and Dr. Pepper is the way.
Do you think society as we know it will collapse within the next 150 years?
Oh, I hope it does. We're a virus. we're...
Do you create your own thoughts or do you just listen to them?
Oof. Ooh, that one's actually hard. Oh my god. I think create. I think I create.
Did you ever cheat on a test in school?
No, I think I just took no grade instead of cheating. I was like, I don't care.
A man of principle. Is peeing in the shower normal human behavior or just for those filthy mer people?
Oh, normal. Normal. It's weird if you don't.
Album, shuffle, or playlist?
Album. Always. I can't not do it.
Skydiving or deep sea diving?
Oh, skydiving. Oh my god, deep sea is scary as shit.
Are hot dogs tacos?
No, absolutely not. I guess depending on what they're well, I guess what's in them? Depending on what's in them? But no.
Would you rather have tentacle arms or kangaroo legs?
Oh, kangaroo legs. Dude, I would jump so I would fucking jump so much. It'd be sick. I'd kick people.
Is there such a thing as a perfect piece of art?
Yeah. I think there is. Yeah, there's gotta be. Yeah. I've seen things that have been like, that's perfect.
Would you accept $1 million under the condition that 0.1% of all cars randomly become invisible to you? They still exist and drive around as normal, but you can't see them in any way.
But I get how much money?
$1 million.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'll take it. Yeah. I hit by a car once in a while, whatever. I can afford life insurance. I've already been hit by a car and I didn't get $1 million, so.
All right, closing this segment out. Could you eat 37 of your favorite food for $5,000 in a 1 hour time limit?
37 in a 1 hour time limit? Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I can do it.
Well, congratulations. You've survived the lightning round. Woo! Now, before we move on, I, like many listeners, would like to now know, what is your favorite food that you could eat 37 of in a 1 hour time limit for $5,000?
Oh, favorite food? Probably sushi. Sushi or pizza. I can do
You
either
could
one
eat
of those.
37 slices of pizza in an hour?
In an hour? Hour's a long time.
Dude, I might have to.
I'm also a thin crust guy.
Okay. Cheating
Oh,
already, I see.
that's not cheating. That's just delicious. Delicious.
Well-
I like it a little bit crispy. A little bit crispy. It works.
Well, either way, as a reward, my Galvin guest, I grant thee a lightning round question of your own to be echoed until the ends of time.
Oh my goodness.
What you got for us, homie?
Oh, I gotta find it again. Like, that's why I wrote this down, because I was like, I have the worst memory.
Know
my
thyself
gosh.
and do thyself be true, my friend.
Chris, my great silly song. Oh my god. I'm sorry. I'm like, what did I? There it is. Yeah. Okay, so it goes like this. So you have to get rid of one person. Their movies don't exist. Anything they were ever in doesn't exist. Who do you get rid of? Kurt Russell or Nick Cage? Because you lose out on a lot of stuff
Yeah.
for both. I feel like it just comes down to who you cared about more in your childhood.
Well, I'm also thinking of like there's movies that I really like that Nick Cage. So the answer is I'm gonna get rid of Nick Cage forever and
Oh my god,
get
really?
Infinite's like. Well, the thing is, like, the movies I'm missing out on, the biggest L is Raising Arizona,
Oh my goodness.
which is an L to be sure. However, if you get rid of Kurt Russell, you miss out on Hateful Eight. You miss out on his time as Snake Plissken. You miss out on a bunch of other like good action movies.
I mean, you know what? There's a lot of low key stuff that Nick Cage is in.
Oh no, there's bangers to be sure,
Oh.
but I'm thinking of like my personal like filmography of the both of them that I've seen.
Because you lose Kick Ass.
You do lose Kick-Ass.
Yeah.
That's rough.
There's a lot of like things where he's like a part of where you're like, oh shit.
Yeah,
And
that's true. But I'm sticking to my answer. I'm
all right.
sorry, Nick Cage. Into the furnace you go. What about you? Who are you?
Honestly, I think I go Kurt Russell too, just because Kurt Russell has one of my favorite movies.
Which is
Big Trouble in Little China.
yeah, banger.
It's so good.
All right, my friend, as we come to a close here, is there anything you want to plug, shout-outs you'd like to give, places people can find you or your content?
You can find me on Instagram at TrashXTalkin, Twitter or X, whatever it is now. I hate Jeremy. That's about it. Everyone else and everything else can go suck it.
Well, thank you, Jeremy, for being my guest today, and a special thanks to my editor, Richard Ashford, and my composer, Joshua Gibbons. And thank you, you, listening at home wherever you found time to appreciate this. Time is the most precious commodity we have, and I appreciate you spending yours with us. And if you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe, like, or just share it with a friend. Every little bit helps. Or if you already have and are out of episodes to listen to, don't worry. We put out a new episode every Monday at midnight on Soundcloud, YouTube, Spotify, and iTunes at Passionate People and Preposterous Peeves Podcast. And a very special thanks are due to our patrons, Sibel Yellow. If you'd like to join such illustrious ranks and have your name read aloud, just head over to patreon.com/Passionate People and Preposterous Peeves Podcast. And do remember, folks, if days are numbered and songs are sung, at the end of the day, I think we all won. So please stick around, because great things have only just begun.